Welcome, brave hobbyists, to the Unpainted Horde, the podcast dedicated to celebrating the glorious world of tabletop miniatures.
Dracula's America, Shadows of the West.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
You want the lowdown on the lore, the rules, basically enough to feel comfortable jumping into a game.
Exactly. That's the plan. We've got the rulebook here, and we're going to give you the gist of the setting, how it plays, the essentials.
So you can walk away feeling pretty prepped for that first game.
That's the idea. Get you ready to saddle up.
And it's not your standard Western, is it? You can play it straight, just cowboys and shootouts.
You can, yeah. The core rules support that.
But the real flavor, the Dracula's America bit, that's where it gets weird. Dracula running the U.S.
Pretty much. It's the Wild West, completely twisted by vampires, monsters, dark magic, all that good stuff.
Wild West gone really wild. Okay, so the rule book's got sections for the rules, campaigns, and the Dracula stuff.
Right. The rules, which covers basic and advanced mechanics, campaigns for linking your games together, and then the Dracula's America section. That's the lore, the alternate history, the factions, the spooky bits.
Gotcha. Let's start with that spooky bit then. The lore. Give us the elevator pitch for this. Shadow Union.
Okay, so picture this. The U.S. Civil War ends differently. It's much bloodier, drags on, leaves the country shattered, and into that chaos steps, Dracula.
The Dracula.
Yeah. By 1870, in this timeline, he manages to become president for life, establishes something called the Shadow Union.
President Dracula. Okay, so the whole landscape is just dark.
Yeah, it's grim. The war, the upheaval, it sort of cracks open the door for all kinds of supernatural forces to creep in and gain a foothold. It's a fundamentally changed America.
Makes sense. And fighting over the scraps are these factions you mentioned.
Exactly. 6 main factions, each trying to survive or, dominate this new dark frontier.
6. All right, let's run through them. Who are we talking about?
Okay, first up, the Twilight Order. Think monster hunters, basically. Descendants of old orders sworn to fight supernatural evil. Now, their big target is obviously Dracula.
Right, the Van Helsing types.
Sort of, yeah. They set up shop in Valley Forge in 73. Game-wise, they get blessed weapons, which are nasty against supernatural critters. Plus, 2 of their guys become Crusaders of the Order.
Crusaders? What does that get them?
They get nerves of steel, so they're tougher to scare, boilerplate armor for better saves,
Right.
and free silver bullets at the start of each game for those 2 models. Really handy against certain enemies.
Okay, solid anti-monster crew. Who's batting for the other side? Dracula's team.
That'd be the Red Hand Coven.
Yeah.
These folks have fully bought into Dracula's New World Order. They embrace the darkness.
His loyal followers.
Yep. Their main troops are Broodkin. They have the supernatural trait, makes them tougher. They're fast, move 6, hard to kill, and they get an arcane power called Transfix.
Arcane power, like magic.
Exactly. Transfix can potentially stun enemies.
Oh.
And they can feed on enemies who are down to shake off being shaken themselves, so they can recover mid-fight. Pretty resilient.
Nasty. Okay, hunters, vampires. What about the folks who are, already in the West? Native Americans.
Good point. That brings us to the Skinwalker tribes. Various Native American tribes have banded together here. They see the settlers and the supernatural stuff as disrupting the balance of nature, and they're fighting back.
How do they fight?
Their big thing is shapeshifting. They can turn into beast form. This makes them fearsome, which can make enemies panic and gives them other abilities depending on the animal spirit they channel.
Yeah.
Very versatile. Very dangerous up close.
Shapeshifters. Cool. That adds a whole different feel. Who else is stirring up trouble?
Then you've got the Crossroads cult. These guys are sneaky. Diabolical cultists, often hiding in plain sight as, rich railroad tycoons.
Uh-oh. Cultists and capitalists.
Yeah, a dangerous mix. They're trying to perform this great ritual tied to the new Intercontinental Railway to gain power and mess things up even more. In game terms, they can summon things.
Summon. Like demons.
Pretty much. Abyssal entities. Things like a massive behemoth or a fast hellhound. Suddenly having an extra monster pop up on the table can really change things. They're unpredictable.
Okay, that sounds terrifying. Railroads and summoning rituals. What's next?
Next are the Congregation. This group is mainly ex-slaves and abolitionists who are still fighting, basically running a guerrilla war against what's left of the Confederacy, which has gone, very dark.
How do they fight back?
They use the power of voodoo. In the game, this lets them do things like raise zombie warriors to fight alongside them.
Zombie warriors? Seriously?
Seriously. And their leader figure becomes a vessel. Each game gains flying, becomes supernatural, tough, fearsome, and gets a magic attack called Arcane Blast. They're fighting for freedom with some serious spiritual firepower.
Wow. That's a powerful theme. Okay, who's the last faction? You mentioned the Confederacy.
Yeah, the Dark Confederacy. What's left of the South, but they've fully embraced necromancy, raising the dead to keep their fight going.
So actual necromancers leading zombie armies.
Basically, yes. Their boss becomes a master necromancer arcanist, gets powers like faith healing, ironically enough, and they can summon revenants, basically reanimated corpses every game, gives them lots of bodies for the tabletop.
Grim. So the South rises again. Literally. You mentioned a timeline earlier. How did we get to this point in 1875?
Right, quick version. Lincoln's assassinated in 69, Dracula takes advantage. 71 sees the start of Reconstruction, but also the Crossroads cults ritual kicking off disasters. 72, the Skinwalkers unite. 73, the Dark Confederacy forms. And 1875 is present day for the game with all this chaos and supernatural stuff they call the Terror, just part of life.
The Terror, yeah, sounds like the supernatural isn't just flavor text, it's everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It affects everything. Creatures, weird events, faction abilities. It's baked into the core of Dracula's America.
Okay, fascinating setting, really dark, really imaginative. So let's switch gears. How do we actually play this thing? The rules. What do you need to get started?
Right, the nuts and bolts. If you've played skirmish games, some of this will feel familiar. You need minis, usually 28, 32 millimeter scale, 25 millimeter bases are common.
Standard stuff?
Yep. A playing area, usually 3 by 3 feet is good, but 2 by 2 or 4 by 4 works too. Your posse of models, obviously. Dice, mainly 6-siders, D6s, but some rules use D8s or D10s.
D8s and D10s, okay.
Yeah, for grit, mostly. Then, crucially, a standard deck of playing cards for each player.
Playing cards, okay, that's different. How do they work?
They're key for deciding who goes when. You also need a tape measure, some tokens or markers for tracking stuff like done or shaken, and if you're playing a campaign, posse roster sheets.
Got it. So tell me about these cards and the turns. How does a turn unfold?
Okay, so a game is usually 8 turns. Each turn has 4 phases. Phase 1 is the draw phase. You draw cards from your deck. The number depends on how many models you have in play. Plus, your boss gives you an extra card draw.
So more models, more cards, potentially more actions.
Sort of, yeah. It fuels the next phase, which is the action phase. This is where the cards really matter. Both players choose one card from their hand and reveal it at the same time.
Okay. Simultaneous reveal. Then what?
Highest card value goes first. So king beats queen, queen beats jack, and so on. Ace is high.
What about suits?
Suits matter for ties and value. Black suits, spades, and clubs always go before red suits, hearts, and diamonds.
Ah, okay. So king of spades beats king of hearts.
Exactly. If it's the exact same rank and suit, sometimes a scenario triggers a special event. If it's just the same rank, different suits, you do a roll-off with dice to see who gets the activation.
A mix of card strategy and dice luck. Cool.
Yeah.
So when it is your turn to activate, what can you actually do?
Right. Your activation. You pick one of your models that hasn't acted yet, hasn't got a done token. You got 3 choices. 1, if all your guys have done tokens, you just pass. Simple.
Makes sense. Option 2.
Option 2 is a solo activation. You pick one model, and it gets to perform 2 actions. These can be move, shoot, fight, or lookout. Any combination.
2 actions. Okay.
But, and this is important, a specific weapon can only be fired once per activation. So no double tapping with the same rifle in one go.
Ah, good balancing rule. Prevents one model going novo. What's the third option?
Dual activation. You pick 2 different models, and each one performs 1 action. You choose which model acts first.
So spread the action out?
Exactly. More tactical flexibility, maybe.
Uh-huh.
After a model acts in a solo or dual activation, it gets a done token. Prevents it acting again that phase.
Got it. Let's break down those actions. Movement. How far can models move?
It varies. There isn't like a single base speed, but mounted models are specific. 6 inches for a normal horse, 8 inches if you've got a fancy Appaloosa. Foot models are generally less. Depends on the model type.
And terrain matters, I assume?
Oh, yeah. Rough ground costs double 2 inches of movement used for every 1 inch you actually travel. Climbing something taller than your remaining move ends your activation right there.
Ouch. Falling.
Can happen. Drop more than 2 inches, you risk damage. Need to make a save roll. It gets harder the further you fall. You can also try leaping gaps up to 4 inches if you have the movement.
Okay. Anything else for move?
One key thing. Clearing a jammed weapon takes a whole move action. So if your gun jams, you got to spend time fixing it.
Right, that jam mechanic. Speaking of which, let's talk shooting. How does that work?
Okay, shoot action. First, declare your weapon and your target. Normally, you have to shoot the closest visible enemy.
Closest. Always.
Usually. Exceptions are really big targets, or if you pass a spotting test to pick out someone further away. You also can't target models that are downed or already locked in a fight.
Makes sense. Then check range.
Yep. Short, medium, or long. This affects your roll to hit.
How do you roll to hit?
It's a 3-dice shooting test. Roll 3d6. 5s or 6s are successes.
Modifiers.
Several.
Well.
Target in cover is -1 die. Long range is -1. Shooting someone in the back, that's a +1 bonus. Short range is +1. And being higher up, elevated shooter gives +1.
Okay, add up the successes. Then the target saves.
Right. If you hit, the target makes a save roll. The difficulty depends on how many successes you got. More successes, harder save.
And then the jam check?
Everything else, yeah. Roll the weapon's jam die. If you fail a roll, slap a jam token on it. Out of action till you fix it.
Man, jams sound like a real pain. Any weird shooting rules, shotguns or anything?
Yeah, some weapons like sawn-off shotguns use a fire corridor.
Yeah.
You pick a target, but other models along the line might get hit too, kind of like a template effect.
Okay. And shooting into a melee?
Risky. If you try shooting someone who's in base-to-base combat, you have a roll-off with the opponent. Winner decides who actually gets hit in that combat. Could be your target, could be their friend, could even be your friend if they're in there.
Yikes. Probably best to avoid that unless you're desperate. Okay, what about getting stuck in the fight action?
Right, fight. You choose an enemy you're in base contact with. Then both you and the defender make a 3-dice fight test. Again, looking for 5s and 6s.
Modifiers here too.
Yep. Charting in gives you +1 die. Attacking someone who's fortified, like behind cover, is -1. And being outnumbered, having extra enemies in base contact who aren't fighting someone else, is -1 per extra enemy.
So ganging up is bad, charging is good. How do you know who wins?
Most successes wins. Winner gets to strike the loser.
What are ties?
If you tie on successes, whoever rolled the single highest die wins by 1 success. If it's still a tie, same successes, same highest die, it's a draw. Nothing happens. Stay locked in combat.
Okay. Loser makes a save.
Correct. And again, the difficulty depends on the difference in successes. Bigger win margin, harder save.
Does the winner have to strike?
Nope. Instead of striking, the winner can choose to shove. You push the loser 1 inch straight back, good for breaking contact, maybe pushing someone off a roof. Tactical options.
Nice. Okay, damage. What happens when you fail that save?
Depends how badly you fail. There's a damage table. Fail by 1 or 2, you're shaken. Fail by 3 or 4, you go down. Fail by 5 or more, you're a casualty. Remove the model.
Always roll the save then, even if it looks impossible?
Definitely, because the result matters. Being shaken isn't great.
What does shaken do?
It means your model's rattled. You treat its grit die, that's the die type like D6, D8, D10, that shows how good they are 1 rank lower for all tests.
Right.
So a D8 grit because D6 grit. Minimum is D6 though.
Okay. Less effective. What if you get shaken again?
If you're already shaken and get another shake result, you go straight to downed.
And downed is bad.
Yeah, down means you're on the floor. You can only crawl 2 inches on your activation. No other actions. Mostly ignored by rules. Can provide cover, though.
Let me get back up.
We'll get to that in the recovery phase. But importantly, if an enemy gets into base contact with a down model, they can just choose to remove it as a casualty automatically during their fight action. No roll needed. Coup de grace.
Brutal. Okay, try not to get downed. Got it. You mentioned lookout earlier. How's that work?
Right, lookout. You spend your entire activation doing nothing but going on lookout. You get a lookout token, end your turn.
So you sacrifice your turn. Why?
Because it lets you react later. During an enemy's activation, if they move into your line of sight and haven't acted yet, you can interrupt them with a reaction.
Interrupt. What kind of reaction?
One single action. Move, shoot, or fight, aimed at the model that triggered you. It's like setting an overwatch or an ambush.
Ah, very cool. What if multiple people are on lookout?
Good question. If several models could react to the same enemy move, they all roll 1d6. Highest roll reacts first, then the next highest, and so on. Once you react, your lookout token becomes a done token.
When do you lose the lookout token otherwise?
If you get shaken or downed, if an enemy moves into base contact without triggering a reaction, or if you just activate normally on your next turn, it's temporary vigilance.
Adds a nice tactical layer. Okay, you mentioned 2 more phases, NPC and recovery.
Yeah, quick ones. NPC phase is just for any models not controlled by players, maybe animals, bystanders, scenario-specific monsters. They follow simple AI rules.
And recovery phase. This sounds important for those downed guys.
Crucial. Happens at the end of every turn. First, everyone removes their done tokens, ready for the next turn. Then, recovery test for downed models.
How does that work?
Roll 3 dice. You get +1 die for each friendly model nearby in base contact like they're helping them up.
And the results?
0 successes. Bad news. The model's a casualty. Remove it. 1 or 2 successes. Stays downed. Try again next turn. 3 or more successes. They stand up, but they're shaken. So they're back in the fight, but fragile.
Okay, a chance to get back up, but it's risky. Anything else in recovery?
One big thing, bottle checks. Morale, basically. If half or more of your starting posse is downed or a casualty, your boss has to make a nerve test. Roll 3 dice.
What happens if they fail?
If the boss fails that nerve test, your whole posse legs it. Bottles out, they're removed from the game, you lose.
Wow, okay. So keeping your boss safe and your casualties low is vital, right? That covers the core flow. How do we actually prepare for a game? Building that posse.
Right. For a one-off game, first, you and your opponent agree on a points limit, say 300 points. Then you buy your models. Buy them.
With points, yeah. Models have ranks. Novice, veteran, hero. Heroes cost more, are better, have better grid dice. Veterans are mid-tier. Novices are your basic guys. You spend points recruiting them.
And their gear costs points, too.
Yep. Weapons, equipment, all cost points from your budget. There are a couple of restrictions. Only 1 stick of dynamite per posse, usually no more than 2 models with the exact same weapon, though there are exceptions.
Everyone gets a boss, though, right? You mentioned that.
Correct. 1 hero model is free. That's your posse boss.
Okay.
But you still pay points for their weapons and gear.
Okay. So build the posse, then what? Pick a scenario.
Yeah, choose a scenario, agree on one, or roll randomly. Then set up the table. Lots of terrain is good. Buildings, fences, rocks, makes it interesting.
Terrain's always key, then deployment.
Final step before starting. Players roll off. Highest roller chooses a deployment zone on the table edge first, sets up their whole posse there, then the next player chooses a zone and deploys, and so.
You can optionally pick secret agendas. These are like personal mini-objectives. If you achieve yours during the game, you get bonus victory points. Adds another layer.
Victory points, right. How do you actually win?
It's all about the VPs. You get points for taking out enemy models.
How many?
Depends on the rank. 1 VP for a novice, 2 VP for a veteran, 3 VP for a hero casualty.
So taking out their boss is worth a lot.
Definitely. Plus, the scenario itself will usually have objectives that grant VPs. Holding a building, grabbing some loot, and getting it off the table, that kind of thing.
So add up VPs from casualties and objectives at the end.
Exactly. Most VPs wins the game. Pretty straightforward.
Okay, I think I've got a pretty good handle on it now. This has been super helpful. We've gone through the lore, President Dracula, the factions, the terror.
Yep, the whole dark alternate history.
And the core rules, the card activations, moving, shooting, fighting, damage, morale.
The key mechanics you need to get playing, plus how to build a posse and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I feel like I could actually sit down and figure out a game now, which was the goal.
Great. Hope you feel, more confident diving in. It really is a unique setting.
Absolutely. Obviously, there's more in the book, right? Advanced stuff.
Oh, for sure. We didn't really dig into mounted combat rules in detail, or dynamite specifics, or bystanders getting in the way, weird terrain effects, random events. There's more depth there.
And the campaign rules for linking games.
Definitely. Campaigns add a whole other layer, with your models gaining experience, injuries, new gear. Really tells a story. We just gave you the get started version.
Perfect. So listeners should definitely check out the full rules if they're keen. Maybe think about which faction really grabs them.
Yeah, that's a good next step. Do you like the sound of the Twilight Order's righteous fight? Or the Red Hand's dark power? Maybe the Skinwalker's connection to nature? Or the Crossroads cult scheming?
Or the Congregation's fight for freedom? Or the Dark Confederacy's undead legions? Lots of flavors.
Exactly. Find one that clicks with you, lore-wise, and maybe playstyle-wise.
And maybe think about hired guns, too. You mentioned this briefly. Moonshiners, preachers, Templars.
Yeah, there's a whole roster of colorful characters you can add to your posse, each bringing unique skills. Adds even more customization.
So final thought for you, the listener, as you ponder your first game in this Shadows of the West.
Maybe consider this. How does mixing those classic Western shoot-'em-up feelings with genuine supernatural horror change your tactics?
Yeah.
When do you rely on your 6-shooter, and when do you need silver bullets or maybe a voodoo charm? It's a cool puzzle.
A very cool puzzle indeed. Good luck out there on the Haunted Frontier.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week, folks. Thanks for joining us on the Unpainted Horde. We hope you learned something, and maybe even feel a little bit better about that mountain of unpainted miniatures looming over you.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us spread the word and justify our addiction. Until next time, may your dice rolls be ever in your favor, and may your primer coats be thin.
This podcast was created with significant help from Google Notebook LM.